Oh, I hear a little bit too much resonance. Ow. Let me see if I can turn this down. You just showed me how. We'll see if I can. I'm a quick learner or a slow learner. Can you hear me still? Good. Now we don't hear that resonance. Excellent. I'll try to. Gentlemen and ladies, let us see. Here's a seat over here if you're willing to be separated. You know, I'm going to turn it down a little bit longer to give a little bit more. And let's see where this mic. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I like this better. My voice sounds more natural to me too. Okay, here's another seat over here. Any takers for this seat here? More important that the students get a chance to hear me, but I don't want the parents to collapse because they're standing all day. So, yes, this is a great, anyone who is able to get up and down without a crane is welcome to sit on the floor over here. There is a seat over here for someone who feels like they can't get up on their own. Right here, there's a seat. And, yeah, so guys, make yourselves comfortable. Feel free to sit on the floor or whatever makes you comfortable, as long as you're young enough that you can get up. There's another seat over here. Okay, so anyone who, I know a lot of you don't want to separate from each other, so that I understand fully well. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Professor Hannah Neckvissel. I'm in the Department of Geosciences. I have been a professor here since 1988, so a lot longer than many of you youngsters have been born. And I have loved every minute of it. And I have not left this university in spite of other offers because I think that Stony Brook is fantastic. We offer tremendous opportunities in the sciences. Guys, there's plenty of room over here, even though it's for a sitting room, but you might be able to see things better. And one of the reasons I volunteer to do this every year is that I love the idea of getting, oh, there's another, yeah, right there, getting you guys off to the right start of how to select whether, you know, this is the right place for you, and how would you hit the ground running. Because the fact remains that if you're interested in science, which all of you are, if you do not hit the ground running, you stand a good chance of not graduating in 4 years. Okay? Why? What do I mean by hit the ground running? You can't ditz around and say, well, I'm going to put off those science courses until my second year. Well, if you do that, then you may very well not be able to get the classes you need in time to graduate. So we've got to hit the ground running. We'll talk about what all that means. So first and foremost, let's back up a little bit and start talking. I'm going to see if I can get this thing to work, whether it's pointer. Is it on? I'm pointing. Now I'm doing something, but I'm not doing. I want to be able to point. But let's see if I push this button here. How about if I, yes, it's very faint, guys, but can you see my little green arrow? It is very faint. And I'm going to see if I can actually knock the lights down a little bit. Again, this is a brand new room and a brand new building. So I'm going to see if I can do lights. Now, I'm not going to do all lights off, don't worry. I'll try preset 1, see if that does anything. That goes the wrong way. Preset 3, let's try that. Oh,
there we go.
Better. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm afraid to do preset 4, somebody might fall on their face if they do that. Okay, so the big question today is, how does one become a scientist, and how does one become a scientist at Stony Brook? And obviously I have to talk a little bit about why Stony Brook. So the kind of talk I'm giving to you today is going to be of relevance whether or not you could just select Stony Brook or select any place. It's a problem that many students in sciences have across the nation, and that is, how do I really become a scientist? Very few people actually take the time to explain that. So how? So first and foremost, we have to ask ourselves, what is a scientist? What do you need to be able to do to eventually call yourself a scientist? And the most important thing to remember is you need to be able to conduct independent research. Now, independent means several things. We're going to talk about that. You're not born being able to do that. So don't worry that people are going to think, oh my God, if I get into a research lab, I have to know everything under the sun. You will not. In fact, the first year you may be totally lost, thinking everybody's so much smarter, wondering why you got yourself into this in the first place. Those are normal feelings, and I can guarantee you that because I have 4 children, of whom 3 are in college and one is in law school, so I've been there, I've done that, I know those feelings that come through on all the kids. Am I really supposed to know this ahead of time? No. But what it really means is that you're going to be in training. You're going to be in training to be able to do the 4 following things. Pose a new question. That is a question that other people haven't necessarily even posed, to say nothing answered. Well, you're going to see you need to be able to be trained to do that. You don't exactly know what's new, for example, in physics at this point, because you don't have the background yet. Then what you want to be able to do is to develop a plan. How would I go about answering this question? Again, you will have to learn how to do that. The third thing is, once you have a plan, you got to learn how to go about implementing that plan, learning the equipment, knowing where to go to for help. Sometimes it may involve you going to Brookhaven National Lab. And folks, yes, we're talking about undergraduates doing this. This is a talk for undergraduates. So, and finally, you're going to need to learn how to report the results. So once you're able to do that, then you can say you are a scientist. How do we get to that stage? You're not there right now, obviously. You need to be trained. You need to be educated. You have a lot of intellectual exercises that you have to go through before you get to that stage. So what do you need? First and foremost, you need background. How can you determine if you're posing a new question? Until you have the background to know what is the body of knowledge that is already known. That's why you select a major, such as chemistry, such as physics, such as marine sciences, etc., to get the background. That's why the professors are giving you lectures on the background. The second thing you need is you need exposure to scientific thinking. So if you are interested in majoring in physics, for example, and you're never around anyone who does research, you're really not being exposed to scientific thinking. The thought process that comes with how do I pose a new question, how do I know it's new, how do I develop a plan of attack to solve this problem? So that requires that you be exposed to scientific thinking. And finally, you need the opportunity to do research. And that's a vital part of this training process of becoming a scientist. It is also tremendously fun. I have yet to encounter a single undergraduate research student who hasn't said this was incredibly fun. Why is it fun? Because you are actively engaged in solving a question that you helped pose. You're actively engaged in trying to think through the results. You're actively engaged one-on-one with a professor and an entire research team. You're not just in a class of 50 or 60 students. You're doing something. So that engagement in research becomes a very important part of all this. And the question that I'm posing up ahead is, in here at the top, is why attend a research university? Because a research university gives you those opportunities, period. There are many universities and colleges out there that are not considered to be a top-tier research university. You could go there, have a wonderful time, but if you're planning to become a scientist, it helps to be at a top-notch research university. So, bottom line is, if you have dreams of becoming a scientist and actually working in the field, research counts. So you need to be at a place where you, as an undergraduate, can do research. There are many places that are top research universities that are not undergraduate friendly. One of my daughters was interested in double majoring in physics and molecular biophysics, and she was accepted to Harvard and to Yale, and she went to Harvard and said, my God, it's like the undergraduates are second-rate citizens. They're not important at all. And at Yale, everyone was saying, oh, we would love to have you in our lab, we would love to have you in our lab. That latter part is what Stony Brook is like, with a fraction of the cost. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that also. So, a big research university counts, but that's insufficient. It's necessary, but insufficient. It's got to be a place where you are valued. Now, why a public university cannot tell you that you're more valued than necessarily a private, big-name university like Harvard? One of the main reasons is that a public university educates students of many different levels and aptitudes. So if you are motivated, and you're all bright here, I don't think of anyone who's planning to study science as not being bright, okay? Because you know all through high school that you have had this interest and you followed it through. At a big public university, particularly a big research university where the faculty really want to put undergraduates into their labs, you're treated royally because many of the students can't attain that level of education that you can. So you're treated very well, and the net result is that most of our students who go into grad school have their pick of graduate schools. Okay, and why? Because, again, they had that fantastic research experience. The faculty here are just as good at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, etc. So when they write the letter of recommendation that, Sarah did incredibly well in my lab. She was really an active participant. She came up with her own project. We guided her through, etc. That counts, even if your grades are not that stellar. So that kind of one-on-one interaction is absolutely vital. So, what are obviously the pros? The pros are very easy to count of going to a research university. First and foremost, exposure to diversity. We're going to talk now, my lecture, a lot of it's going to be on how do we investigate fields in science other than the traditional fields that you all walk in from high school thinking is science. How do you find those fields? But they're there, and you have the chance to move beyond, let us take chemistry again. How many of you are interested in chemistry? Good group of students interested in chemistry. So the logical thing would be, okay, I'm going to go and major in chemistry. And I'm going to tell you that that is only one of many choices you can have in studying chemistry. That may not be the way for most of you to go about studying chemistry. For example, some of you may find, I want to apply my chemistry to something. I've been passionate about the oceans my entire childhood. I want to study the chemistry of the oceans. In that case, you wouldn't have a major in chemistry necessarily. You would do the chemistry in marine sciences with a chemical emphasis. Of course, you'll be taking courses in the chemistry department. But the courses majoring in chemistry may not lead you to a goal if your goal is eventually to be doing research on oceans or atmospheric chemistry or the chemistry of planetary bodies like in my field or the origin of the universe. So these are the things we need to guide you to realizing what's there. But the diversity is there, and you need a big research university where just about every faculty member in the sciences is actively engaged in research. And that's what we are dealing with at Stony Brook. We need research, lots of research opportunities. And again, I'm trying to get this so it's very dim. Research opportunities. And included in that are facilities. You can go to some of these smaller schools, these expensive small schools like Bryn Mawr, and you can major in science, and what you're stuck with are the teaching labs. But what can you do? What do you do if, for example, you decide what you really want to do is work with a professor on solar dust? Imagine the material being given off by the solar wind and brought into this part of our solar system. We have the Stardust mission where we've collected some of it. You could be involved in trying to figure out what it is, but you can't do it in a chemistry teaching lab. Where you would have to go is work with the faculty that are over working at Brookhaven using the synchrotron X-rays to really figure out what is in that stardust. And that's what I mean about better facilities. You need a place that has great research facilities in addition to teaching labs. The teaching labs you can get pretty much anywhere. And we've already mentioned the professors who are active researchers. Now, there's another way of looking at that that's so important. An active researcher means that we have gotten funding from a science organization, like, for example, my funding is through the National Science Foundation and NASA. They're giving me money to do research, and part of my mission is to involve undergraduates in that research. Okay? So what does that mean? It means I am working on problems that currently are so relevant that I'm getting funding to do so. So if you're dealing with active researchers, you're dealing with people who are doing something right now of interest to science and society. So that means you're not being educated or getting something that was hot 20 years ago. It's hot right now. And ultimately, if you want a job, you want to know what those hot fields are. And obviously, if you go to a top-notch research university and dealing with researchers, your chances of getting into that dream graduate school, and working with that dream professor, working on that fantastic project, are enhanced tremendously. Because all it takes is one of those kind of researchers here to write you a letter of recommendation. And I tell you, our students really, if I'm giving my department of Geosciences, our students write their ticket anywhere. They can go Brown, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Berkeley, wherever they want to go. They choose where they want to go because of most of our students, 80% of them do research. So that is what gets them into that. So whether it be you're interested in getting a job afterwards or go to graduate school, a top-notch research university is where you want to be. There are obviously detriments to being at a big research university, and it's very important to point them out so that you can do something about it and be prepared. So what are the cons? Probably the biggest problem with dealing with a big research university like this is class size. And I can't pussyfoot around it. The fact of the matter is that indeed the freshman level science courses are large, okay? That's part of that fundamental training. But as we're going to talk about some numbers about the number of students that have majored in, for example, some of these science fields, you'll see that actually there are not that many majors, so they get a lot of personal attention after that first year. But you see, the problem is if you do not aggressively get those first year courses behind you, you may not be in the opportunity until later to really get that one-on-one that comes with actually being a declared major. One thing the university does provide are honors courses. You do not have to be in the honors college or a university scholar to enroll in honors courses. That's very important. What's great about honors courses? They're much smaller enrollment. They're taught much more one-on-one. And let me give you a story that really hit home recently on this. Some students